goals, including that long-range one at Catalan, I believe.
Yeah,
Famous
where everyone was more obsessed with his with him looking similar to some round ball guy than.
Yeah, I mean he's a decent player, and he always seems to play well against Cass, so it's probably a good bit of business for him.
He doesn't ever sort of drop effort and let people down. He's not a top tier player, but he's a solid, consistent performer you can rely on. St Helens will sign Tonga international Will Hopoate from NRL side Canterbury Bulldogs on a 2-year deal for the 2022 season. Hopoate, who's 29, has played 181st grade games and scored 45 tries either side of a 2-year Mormon mission stint. He played 5 State of Origin games for New South Wales and has 11 caps for Tonga, who are coached by Saints boss Christian Wolff. So, yeah, he doesn't play on Sundays, so hopefully... and I don't know how he feels about Easter, so let's see how he gets on with the derby. But quite a big name signing for St Helens. I guess he's going to play in the centres to replace Nguama, but they probably needed to sign someone with Farge, Koo and Nguama all going out of that current back division, and someone with experience they've managed to capture.
All I know about this guy really is somebody on Twitter put together a montage of tweets from Bulldogs fans whinging about him being in the team or on the field or on the bench. So I think the Bulldog fans are quite glad to get rid of him, but still a big signing, isn't it? It seemed to make a few waves.
Yeah, I think he's a very good player, and it's a shame that he signed for St Helens.
Okay, Lee Centurions have signed Catalan Dragons second row forward Joel Tompkins on a 1-year deal for the 2022 season. The 34-year-old Joe Code International has made 7 appearances for Super League leaders this year. And EFU 78JU contacted the show to say Joel Tompkins might end up in the championship with Lee Centurions if the club ends up being relegated from Super League. He has only signed a 1-year deal with them, probably to make them a better club. Joel has the type of top flight ability like when he was at Wigan, OKR and Catalan Dragons.
Yeah, it's is it right at the end of his career now, isn't he? But he's not playing badly for Catalans this year, so...
I'm surprised he's only made 7 appearances. Has he been injured?
Probably suspended. He was suspended at the start of the season, didn't he? He had a carryover from his finger bumming situation. Or bum fingering, that's it. Bum fingering last year. So he was suspended a bit, and I think maybe when their first choice 17 is picked, he's not necessarily in it, but Lee seemed to like being a retirement home for former Wigan forwards as well at the moment, so
they must be confident of being in Super League next season to make that signing, I would have thought.
I think he's kind of come to the end of his getting a deal at a good club part of his career anyway, so I sort of think even it's a sort of name like a Brett Ferris popping up at Fev, or Cuthbertson popping up at York, that sort of level anyway, I think. So it wouldn't have been a shock if he signed for a championship club anyway. It's his next deal. He doesn't seem ready to retire, but he doesn't seem at the top of his game. But I think it's potentially someone Lee can, put in there with some experience and stuff and be confident that he'll deliver. But whether he'll deliver what they want him to all the time, I don't know. He'll get in less trouble when he's not got his brother there to defend, I suppose. Staying with Catalans, hooker Alric Acosta has signed a new 1-year deal with the club. The France international put pen to paper on a contract extension that will see him remain with the Dragons until the end of the 2022 season. Born in Lemieux, the young hooker signed his first professional contract in 2016. When he also made his debut. He's since played 14 of Catalan's games so far this season and made 80 appearances in all for the Dragons since 2016. I just think we talked about Gudemon last week as well. I think Catalans have now got to a position where they are producing homegrown players that are capable of performing consistently in the Super League, and Da Costa's another example of that. So I'm not surprised that they've given him a new deal.
Yeah, it's good that they're able to keep hold of him as well, because in the past the really good French players have ended up playing in England, and I think this is good for the French national team, especially if Toulouse can do the same if they come up.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so back rower Joe Cater has signed a new 2-year deal with his boyhood club Hull FC in a season which he earned an England call-up to the England night setup. The 23-year-old joined the Early Birds for 2022 after a spell at Lee and won Young Player and Supporters Young Player of the Year awards that year. So, good bit of business.
He's been good, hasn't he, for Hull? You know, full commitment kind of player. Played way better than I've expected him to. So it's absolutely no surprise that they've given him a new deal. They like a 2-year deal nowadays at Hull. They like the new witness.
Well, yeah, that's the ideal length, isn't it? I would have thought.
Going over to the other side of the city, bad news that Hull KR back rower Dean Hadley is set to miss the rest of the season after dislocating his shoulder in Sunday's 34-28 win at Lee. The 29-year-old was injured and tackled early on in the match and had to be withdrawn before heading to hospital. So it's his first full season at Rovers, and sadly cut short. Another line out Hull KR today, actually, Rob, is they've announced the immediate signing of promising fullback Phoenix Laulu Tonga from Keighley until the end of 2023. Laulu Tonga, though, will join the Cougars on loan with immediate effect until the end of the season. So really, it's a signing for potential rather than for the present. But following his dad's footsteps and getting a Super League deal.
Okay. Richard Agar, the Leeds Rhinos head coach, has been fined £1,000, half of it suspended until the end of the 2021 season, for his comments on the 30th of June. Michael Carter, the Wakefield Trinity chief executive, has been fined £2,000 with £750 suspended until the end of the 2022 season for a statement issued on the 14th of July. Alex Chan, the Catalan Dragon general manager, has been fined £500, the sum suspended until the end of the 2021 season for a statement on July the 16th. All three have been found guilty of breaching the operational rules and also the respect policy. In each case, there is a right of appeal. The RFL works constantly with clubs on the efficiency of the game's disciplinary procedures. Those procedures include the right of appeal and the opportunity for internal feedback. I think internal should be stressed there. I think the fact that three people have been fined within such a short time, or the statements within such a short time, sort of says what a mess the disciplinary process is at the moment. It doesn't seem consistent in terms of what bans are given out, although I think as fans we don't really take into account previous indiscretions. But yeah, I suppose it's good that the RFLs are finally showing some leadership and clamping down, because it did feel like a bit of a free-for-all, whereas chairmen and coaches could say what they wanted and never get caught up on it. But I do agree with those three people in terms of how it looks from the outside looking in.
I think Carter's statement kind of went the wrong side of the line. It sounded like, more emotion led, and it was more a sort of fan having a rant rather than, which is, what we do, rather than a CEO of an organisation behaving in a constructive manner. And I think that's why his is the most severe of the punishments about this. But yeah, undoubtedly there is problems and concerns with the disciplinary processes. There always will be, and us fans will always look at what happens to players from our club and look at what happens to players from rival clubs and find some way of seeing an injustice. I've said before, I find the process now kind of less transparent because of these penalty notices. We don't get to really fully understand the explanation of how they've come up with different charges and gradings. If the penalty notices are accepted, we don't see a full explanation in the write-up. We only see that if it goes to a tribunal on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and they actually write it up, and we get to see the full thought processes into why it was a particular grading, that sort of stuff. And I used to enjoy actually doing a comparison of all the charges to see where there was fairness and not. I think the most nonsensical thing of Michael Carter's statement was about the appeals not happening. We've shown last week that there was an appeal that was upheld, wasn't there? So it shows that they do exist and they are considered.
Yeah, but earlier in the season, when Cass appealed Liam Watts' ban, they give him an extra game for the privilege. They called it a frivolous appeal. So, they can't both be right, can they?
Well, even at the time of his statement, though, Sione Matautia appealed his charges, and one of them was downgraded on appeal, but the second one wasn't. So even at the time of making the statement saying appeals didn't happen, citing Sione Matautia's charge, just one of the things he didn't understand why he was charged, which I get that part, like I just said, but even at that time, an appeal was successful. So yeah, there are things to be ironed out on individual cases and individual bases, but I suppose...
I'm not sure what Richard Ager said on the 30th of June. When I sort of first saw it, I assumed it was for questioning that video ref decision, but that was afterwards. So I wonder whether his half of the suspended fine is going to be paid up pretty soon, because he had a decent rant, didn't he, for that try that never was.
Yeah, but sometimes it is entirely justified, and he wasn't bringing into question the sort of credibility, I suppose. He was just, or the intention there, just saying. People make mistakes.
It was having a moan about the different part of the sport, I suppose.
Yeah, but we'll see. We will see. Moving away from Super League, Riley Dean has been recalled from York by Warrington and then instead loaned out to another Championship side, Dewsbury Rams, for the rest of the year. And EFC 78JU said Riley Dean has joined Dewsbury until the end of the season. He has recently been recalled back to Warrington from York City Knights, as he was also due to play for Ireland in the delayed Rugby League World Cup. Hopefully he fits in there and we don't go short on players when he does a decent job there. So, well, you're not short of halfbacks, are you? You've just signed another one. I think I won't worry too much. He's the future rather than the present, Riley Dean, and getting some Championship game time is important. I just don't understand why they thought York was no good anymore for that, but maybe it's because York have got some other of their long injury players on the comeback path, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so George Burgess has returned to Australia by signing a 2.5-year deal with the NRL side, St George Illawarra Dragons. The forward, 29, was released by Wigan in February and had surgery on a hip injury which ruled him out of the 2021 Super League season. George made 149 NRL appearances for the Rabbitohs, winning the Premiership in 2014, where he played alongside Tom and his older brothers Sam and Luke, who have both since retired. So he never really played for Wigan, did he? I think he was completely injured for that short time when he came back.
He played one great game away at Huddersfield before lockdown, and then during lockdown he couldn't get the sort of ongoing treatment and management he needed on his hip, and then he couldn't really face another winter pre-season, it seems like. So he's off back to the warmer climate of Australia with a newly repaired hip, and hopefully he can re-find some of his past glory, because he's a good player, isn't he? He's a player that no one will want to see do badly, because we want all our top players playing. And at 29, he's got time left on his side if his hip can manage it.
He just never looked fit for you.
He wasn't. No. Really wasn't, unfortunately. And finally, Leeds-bound halfback Aidan Caesar has joined the coaching staff of Turkey national team. Caesar, who's 30, will depart Huddersfield after 2 seasons to move to Headingley at the end of the year, and has signed up to help Turkey prepare for their European Championship D games against Netherlands, Malta and Chechnya. Anyway, former Turkish international Cansin Turgut, who played Super League for Salford and Hull, will also join the coaching team. So that's a positive news to see. A big name in Caesar giving something back to the sport, and also Cansin Turgut